If you've got any dream of retiring early, hitting financial freedom, living off your investments, whatever you want to call it, then there are 2 or 3 moves that can quietly cut years, sometimes a whole decade, off how long it takes you to get there. That is what this whole video is, not vague motivation, the actual moves in the actual order you should make them. And here's why you want to hear this now, and not in 5 years. If you build your entire plan around compound interest the way everyone online tells you to, you'll end up burning your most important years doing the single least effective thing. Get the order right instead, and you can finish the race in 8 years instead of 15. By the end of this, you'll know exactly which move to make first and why starting from 0 is honestly the slowest possible way to do any of this. Okay, so let's start with the thing nobody explains properly, and I'll keep it dead simple. No math degree needed. Just look at this. There are 3 different ways money can grow, and I want you to actually see all 3 side by side because this one picture quietly changes how you should start everything. The blue line is linear growth. Linear is the easy one. Work twice as much, earn twice as much, but 2 hours of effort, 2 units of money, 4 hours, 4 units. A straight, honest line, fair, predictable, boring. The green line is compound growth. This is the famous one, the snowball everyone worships. And yeah, in the long run, it absolutely wins. Look at the far right of the graph. Green eventually pulls ahead of everything. But here's the catch nobody mentions. Look at the start of that same green line. For a long stretch at the beginning, it's the worst of the 3. It's so weak early on that the boring blue straight line is literally beating it. The snowball at the top of the hill is tiny and barely moving. It only becomes a monster much later once enough time has finally passed. So if you build your early years entirely around compounding, you're pouring all your effort into the exact phase where it does the least. Now look at the orange line, logarithmic growth. You know, this is the one almost nobody thinks about, and it's the hero of the early game. See how it jumps up fast right at the start and leads the pack for a while before it flattens out? That shape, fast and front-loaded, is exactly what you want in the beginning because the start is where momentum matters most. And so here's what this graph is basically screaming at you, and it's the whole reason this video exists. That compound curve, the one everyone builds their dividend retirement or early retirement plan on, is the slowest, most discouraging thing you can lean on at the very start. Look how long the green line crawls along the bottom before it ever takes off. That flat, miserable stretch is exactly where most people give up. So 2 things become huge. First, in the early years, you want to grow like the orange line fast, not like the green one. And second, you really do not want to start that green compound curve from 0. You want to start it from a chunk you already have, so you skip the worst, flattest part of the climb entirely. Get onto the curve higher up, and the whole thing pays off years sooner. So the real question becomes, how do you grow fast early, and how do you start from higher than 0? The answer to both isn't a clever stock pick. It's the moves I'm about to walk you through, and we start with the most powerful one, income. Let me show you why with the simplest possible example. Say you bring home 10 units of money a month, and 8 of them go to just living. Rent, food, the basics. That leaves 2, so you're saving 20%. Now, you could try to squeeze harder, cut your living costs, give up more, claw your way to saving 3 out of 10. Great, you bumped your savings rate to 30%. But here's the problem with that road. Getting from 50% savings up to 60 is brutal, and honestly, it barely changes the outcome. There's a ceiling, and grinding against it costs you a chunk of your sanity for almost nothing. Now watch what happens with the other lever. Instead of cutting, you go to your boss and say, I'll come in Saturdays, bump my pay a bit. Or you pick up a side gig. Say your income goes from 10 to 12. Just 20% more coming in. But your living costs didn't change. They're still 8. So now you're not saving 2, you're saving 4. You just doubled your savings rate. Doubled it. Same life, you only added income on top. That is why in the early years, if you have any way at all to earn more, running hard at extra income beats chasing compound returns every single time. You grow logarithmically, you grow fast, that's move 1, grow what comes in. Move 2 is going to sound almost silly, but stick with me. Because the real reason it works is not the obvious one. Sell the stuff you don't use. Big, small, doesn't matter. The car is a bigger conversation because that's a real decision, we'll get there. But the headphones you never wear, sell them. The 5 jackets you forgot you own, you can only wear 1 at a time, sell them. And here's what I've watched this actually do twice over. First, it makes you take the whole thing seriously because this game is not run on motivation. Motivation evaporates by Wednesday. It's run on commitment. And when you hit one of those breaking points where you want to quit, There's this little voice in the back of your head going, hold on, I sold stuff for this, I gave things up for this, I'm not bailing now. That tiny anchor keeps you in, and staying in the game longer is the entire trick, because that's when the slow part finally tips over into the snowball. Second thing it does, it builds momentum fast, and once you've made a few real sacrifices, the tiny ones, like skipping a coffee, suddenly feel laughably easy. So you cut more, your pile grows faster, and watching it grow fast makes you want to push even harder. It feeds itself. Which leads to the reframe I want stuck in your head. Stop starting from zero. Everyone kicks off their journey at zero and crawls upward from there. You don't have to. Selling what you don't use lets you start from positive, plus 1,000, plus 10,000, whatever you can scrape together. You begin the climb already partway up the hill. Now, the heavy hitters. Whatever you call this dream, freedom, early retirement, living off dividends, there are 3 giant expenses you have to solve, and almost everything else is noise. Housing, food, transport. In the building phase, your job is to shove all 3 of these as close to zero as you possibly can. Housing is the big one, because it's usually the single biggest thing draining you every month. So ask the uncomfortable question, is there any way to get this close to zero, at least for a while? If you're young and single, moving back in with family is the single most powerful financial move available to you, full stop. I know, psychologically it's rough. Nobody dreams of moving home at 25. But financially, it doesn't move you 1 step ahead, it moves you 5. Because if you only knock out rent, even if you cover every other bill in the place, you can take your savings rate from something like 10 or 15% and rocket it to 40 from one move. Can't move home? Fine. Get a roommate, already have one, get another. Turn the living room into a bedroom and split it more ways. Rent out the spare room. These are young person moves. Once you're settled down with a family, this door is shut. But a couple of these moves now will swing your finish line by something like 10 years down the road. 6 months of gritting your teeth here can pull your whole timeline 5 years closer. Run the numbers yourself, you'll see it. Once housing is handled, the next one is eating out. And I have to be blunt with you. Constant takeout and delivery will quietly shred your budget faster than almost anything else you do. So you learn to cook. That's the whole secret. There are people who realized they were bleeding money on food, learned to make a handful of cheap meals, and watched their monthly savings jump by several times over. Not because cooking is some magic skill, but because the gap between I cook and I order in 5 nights a week is enormous when you stretch it across a full year. And the last one, transport. I'll keep this short because it's honestly its own video. If you genuinely want financial freedom and you've got an expensive car, I hate to be the one to say it, but that single thing is going to fight you the entire way. A car has visible costs, invisible costs, and slow bleeding costs all at once. The payment, sure, but also the insurance, the fuel, the maintenance, the tires, the depreciation, all of it stacked together. Add up what a car truly costs you per year, then set that number right next to how much you actually save per year. For a lot of people, those 2 numbers are uncomfortably close. That one comparison tells you everything. Now here's a piece I really want you to get, because it takes the pressure off. The investing part, the compound part, runs on knowledge. Your returns roughly track how much you actually understand, but it has hard limits. Despite what the loud people online scream at you, you are not going to double your money every year forever. That is not how it works, and chasing it is exactly how people blow themselves up. The good news is you don't need that. Even modest, sane returns get you there. 5% above inflation works, 8 works. Anything above 10 just gets you there faster. The returns were never the deciding factor, discipline was. So who actually finishes fast? Not the person with the cleverest portfolio. It's the person who can look at the car and go, this is gone, it's in the way of what I actually want. It's the person who says, I'll learn to cook instead of ordering in. It's the person who, instead of lying around scrolling all evening, goes, let me learn something, let me get a little better at something. Those people finish fast. And I've watched this play out the same exact way over and over. Someone sets a sensible plan, 15 years to hit their number. Then they genuinely attack it with discipline. And somewhere around year 8, they're already 80% of the way there. They finish in 10, not 15. Why? Because life is not made only of bad surprises. When you're truly working towards something, good surprises start showing up too. You do your work well, an opportunity appears, a bonus lands out of nowhere. Doors open precisely because you're moving. 15 years quietly turns into 8. And then there's the other crowd. They start full of fire, and then it's, let's just upgrade the car, we earned it, and one more nice thing. These are people whose income climbed a lot over the years, and yet you look up and it's been 20 years, same spot. 25 years, same spot, one missed paycheck away from not affording groceries next month. The trap snapped shut on them and they never even heard it. I've seen it again and again. Here's the strange little tell I've picked up. The people who can't bring themselves to sell a jacket, a pair of headphones, some small thing, are usually the ones who quit the whole journey first. So when somebody tells me they're going to start, I tell them to go sell something. Because the point was never the few $100. There's a different kind of math running underneath that, a commitment thing, and it quietly predicts everything. So let me hand you the whole plan in one breath. 1, early on, play the income game, earn more. 2, stop starting from zero, sell what you don't use and begin from positive. 3, find a way, and I mean a way, not can I, to crush the 3 giant expenses: housing, food, transport. Solve those, run the numbers, and you'll watch your finish line slide years closer. And look, sacrificing for your freedom is a genuinely beautiful thing. Meanwhile, the just live your life, travel the world, bro crowd usually can't actually afford to travel and would be in real trouble if they missed one single paycheck. Don't box yourself into that corner. A little discomfort now, chosen on purpose, buys you an entire life later. That's where my head's at on it. Tell me down below, which of the big 3 is the one you already know you need to attack first? The housing, the food, or the car? Be honest, I'm right here in it with you.